I'm going to try having you join my Pear Deck, and then I'm going to share it on the screen in the Meet here so that people with the recording can see it. All right, how am I doing? Do you see my screen? Thumbs up, awesome. All right, and it looks like I have 4 people in on my Pear Deck, and that's what I would be expecting based on who's on our call today. So I'm going to close the join code here. And move us along to the next screen here. So I'm Amanda Thompson. I teach at East Central High School. And Jeremy had asked for some presenters, and his call was, what's the thing that you use every day? And I was like, well, I guess I use Pear Deck every day. So that's why I'm presenting on Pear Deck. And so I already had you join with that link, which worked really well. We all got in. Pear Deck is on a mission to help teachers deliver powerful learning moments to every student every day. And that's really why I started using it in the classroom, is to get more input quickly from students. So I can get every student's response on my screen in a matter of seconds, which is really nice because I can hear from the quiet students, and then I can share their responses too easily in the classroom. So before we get into this, how much do you know about Pear Deck? So it looks like our responses are we know a few things about it, and we've got someone that's used it and loved it. Awesome. So I'm going to quickly go through the different question types then, look at some resources for what Pear Deck has available to make it easier to use in the classroom. So some of the question types are... This is the first one where you can draw and or type to label the parts of the cell. So you can give this one a try and practice. Some of my students are super awesome at drawing on Pear Decks. It like blows my mind what I can see from them, because I am not like amazing with a trackpad, and yet they can like create these amazing creations with them, and it blows my mind. Just super cool. So from the teacher side, so if you're switching between your 2 screens, you might want to jump back to the Google Meet here. We can look at these one at a time. We can look at it all in a grid, or we can overlay and see all of them at once, which is kind of fun that you can get the different ways of looking at it. On what I'm presenting to the class right now, it doesn't have any names, but on my teacher side, I see the names, so I know whose is whose, and I can choose which ones to share easily just by clicking a little star. And so I can highlight a specific one, or I can show all of them. So it's really easy to share out with the whole class too, and kind of have that opportunity to curate or edit what you want to share out to the whole class to feature different voices or different perspectives. So another question type is a drag. So you can drag the flag to Algeria. And Pear Deck has some really fun templates with this one, with the Draggables, and especially around SEL, where they have some where it's like, where's your stress right now? And then they have like, oh, I'm ready to do this. And like, oh, I'm over this. So they have a lot of fun question types with the Draggables. Another question type is a write your response. So then you can type. Usually I run the dashboard, the teacher dashboard, from my computer, but today I'm running the teacher dashboard from my phone because I didn't want to overload my computer. So it's a little bit different, but kind of cool that you can run it from your phone too. So one thing that I utilize a lot in the classroom too is the timers. So I can easily hit a timer. I've got 30 seconds, 1 minute, or 3 minutes that you can choose for the timer, and then it automatically locks down responses, and that kind of helps me stay on track. So then I can spend 3 minutes checking in with a couple different students while they're working on a question, and then as soon as it locks responses, I know, because usually the students are saying something like, oh, I got cut off, or and then I know, oh, it's time to circle back and talk about things. So it's really fun to have that option 2. And you can lock responses at any time with the click of a button too on the teacher dashboard. So if you're not using the timers, you can just lock them as you want. And that way students are maybe not interacting with what's on their screen and listening to what you're saying. And you can also have them enter a number. And what's kind of fun about the entering a number then is what you see as show responses looks a little bit different. So again, if you're toggling between tabs, you might want to come back to the Google Meet here, because now I have a number line with the range of responses. So I can see the smallest number was 6 and the highest number was 500 for responses. So you can kind of see that whole range, which is super fun. And then you can also have websites embedded and videos embedded. So then students can click right from the Pear Deck to get to where they need to be. So this is an example of a website embedded. And this slide I took from Pear Deck, so I hope that link works. But if not, when you're embedding them, no. Sometimes they don't, because they have like a weird, like, don't change this link button. When you're embedding them, you add the link yourself. And so then it would work. This one I just didn't update because it said, don't change the link.
When I clicked on the link, Amanda, then it did open it up in a separate tab.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Thanks, Mark. So those are the question types. So that is kind of what Pear Deck is like in a nutshell. Is it's a way of adding some input and interactivity into a slide deck. So this one was created by Pear Deck. All these different slide templates, obviously, but you can put this on any Google slideshow. So the ones that you already have created for your classroom, you can use Pear Deck right on that Google Slides. So it looks like there's some excitement about some of these question types. That's awesome. There's some other features that I wanted to mention too. So these ones I use a lot, not live in the classroom, but more if I'm planning for subs or during distance learning. So you can also add audio voiceover into any Pear Decks too. And so then you can record right in Pear Deck. You click that add audio to slide button on the Pear Deck toolbar on Google Slides, and you say whatever you want to say. And then on that slide, there's a button that students can click that says listen to audio. And so then they can hear your voice on the slide. So this was really nice for distance learning because I could talk through a math example or read something aloud for students. And I also use that a lot for when I'm planning sub notes too, because then students can work through the lesson at their own pace. I'm doing a student-led one instead of a teacher-led Pear Deck like I am right now. And they can still get that interaction, that piece from me, which is really nice. And then another feature too is that you can give feedback from your teacher dashboard. So as students are typing in answers, if I'm having them type in like a longer, like a paragraph type answer, or trying to show some steps with a math problem or something on their screen where they're drawing out solving equations, I can give them feedback from the teacher dashboard. So I can tell them right on that teacher dashboard, like how I think they're doing, like maybe you need to change this, or, ooh, you subtracted 3 when you should have added 3 to both sides of your equation. So it's really nice to be able to see all of the students' responses at once and then immediately give them some feedback and some notes as they're working. So those are 2 super cool features that I use a lot as well. It seems like most of us are kind of familiar with Pear Deck, so it seems like maybe you've installed it already, but if you haven't, it's an add-on on Google Slides. And so then you just want to go to Google Slides or go to the Chrome web store and add that Pear Deck add-on. And then you go to add-ons, Pear Deck, open Pear Deck add-on, and the menu is all right there on the side of your Google Slides. So you can use the template library from there. You can add all the different question types from there. And then when you're ready to present, you hit that green present lesson button instead of the present lesson in the slideshow. And then it opens it up in a new window and you have all the Pear Deck features. And there's an option right there to open up the Pear Deck teacher dashboard too. So oftentimes I am doing that on 2 separate devices, one that I'm presenting to the classroom and then one that I'm looking at the teacher dashboard for. Or if you have 2 screens, or if you're extending your screen, it's really easy to have one, the teacher side open on one and then the student side open on the other. So that was my Pear Deck 101 like overview really fast because it looked like some of us had heard of it already. Do you have any questions before I start looking at some of the resources available?
So Amanda, all of these would be available on like the premium or the paid version, these features that you've talked about so far, right?
Not all of the question types are available on the free version. So I think the drag might be the only question type not available on the free version. But you for sure have multiple choice and the text on the free version. And then you still have the teacher dashboard, so you can still share responses and all of those other things there too. Yeah, so you the question in the chat is, I've tried drag and drop. It seems like we're only limited to 5 items to drag. Is that correct? I believe that is correct. Yeah. So it's not as robust as maybe you would like it to be, but there are some workarounds for that if you do need to do more. So you could have another slide with more items. So if you're like doing a map, you could have a couple things on there, couple slides on there with different states or something like that too. Is one of the things that I don't have in my resources is Vocab Flashcard Factory. So before I look at all the resources here, I just want to make sure I mention that because I don't have that one in there. And Vocab Flashcard Factory is something that's available for free on their website, and that's not integrated with the Google Slides add-on. That's like a separate thing, but it's super cool. So when you open it up, it kind of looks like a Quizlet, and you can even like import from Quizlet too, where you have like vocab words in one column and definitions in another column. And then or, you know, if you want to have like equations and answers or something like that, you can mix that up, of course. And so once you have that layout created, you start the Vocab Flashcard Factory. And so students log in just like they would to join a Pear Deck. They go to joinpd.com and they type in that same code, and then, or if you share a link, and then once they're in, it separates them into teams. So they have a day shift and a night shift, and then they're partnered up, and each pair gets a vocab word, and one of them has to write an example for it, and one of them has to draw a picture of it. And then once all the teams have done a picture and example for it, the teacher has the option of like approving them and saying, oh, this is a great example for that one, or this one not so much. And then that exports directly into Gimkit, and you can play a Gimkit with the vocab flashcards that they've then created with drawings and examples. So, and the definition is still on the Gimkit too. So even if their examples and drawings aren't that great, they still are seeing those definitions. So I think that's a super fun way of practicing vocabulary. And that's again on their website. Question, Valerie?
Yes. So I have noticed that I'm doing mostly virtual work, and I would like to have students be able to log into Jamboard, for example, and they cannot. So I'm not asking about Jamboard here, but I'm wondering if the same thing would apply on their devices with Pear Deck. So if I did something and I wanted them to open up Pear Deck, can they? I mean, if Jamboard doesn't work, why would Pear Deck work?
They can with Pear Deck. And so with Pear Deck, they don't need to sign on into a Google account. They can, and that integrates really nicely because then you can see their names, or you can send your Pear Deck to Google Classroom and all those fun things. But there's also an anonymous feature in Pear Deck, so that you might be able to get them all signed in. You might just not be able to see their name. So they could still do all the practicing and things. But in my experience, just like today, we're not all from the same like school domain, and we were still all able to sign into our Pear Deck just fine. So in my experience, that hasn't been an issue.
Do you think it is easy for young learners to use without any other adult supervision? So Mostly what happens with me is some adult helps the students get logged in, and then they go off back to their classroom, and then it's the student and me together. And so there's no, if something happens, I have to tell them, oh, go and ask Ms. So-and-so for some help. But is this going to be no problem? They'll be able to do everything?
I would say in my experience, like maybe a responsible first grader, definitely like second or third would, once they're signed in, would be able to kind of click through, especially if you're there guiding them through the Pear Deck. But I would say younger students still might struggle in that they might be like closing out of that tab on accident or something like that. But I definitely think this would be a great option for that setting for sure, because you're the one guiding through the slides. Like they just are kind of experiencing it and are able to answer, and it looks pretty similar as far as the features go to like Seesaw and other things that younger students are using, like the question, like the way to answer, like you saw, like the drawing and the typing and all of that is pretty similar to other platforms that younger students are using. So
if I'm doing virtual instruction, I would probably choose to use the teacher-led lesson because then I'm talking them through it and we're doing it together. Okay.
Yes. And then if you're sending something to like a Google Classroom where they're going to work on it on their own, like whenever they have a chance, then you would choose the student-paced mode.
I think too, if you train the kids ahead of time, even if they were doing the student-led one and you embedded in some of that audio that maybe gave them specific directions on each slide and just showed them what it would look like and where to click, then they would still hear your voice telling them what they need to do on that slide or how they need to interact in some sort of way.
I was just thinking that after this is over, I'm going to a conference, so I'm not meeting any students today because I'm occupied elsewhere, but I can see the benefit of that because if I'm not there, they still can meet with me even though I'm away. Super.
Yeah, I really like it for those kinds of things. I use this a lot during distance learning. My son had COVID 2 weeks ago and I was out for the whole week. I used this every single day during that time too, because they were able to get some of that instruction piece. It was really easy for me to create. Like I can create an ed puzzle or a screencastify, but that's going to take some time and that gets long. Like this is really easy. You just add the slide. You add the audio right on the slide. It's all right there in Google Slides. It's really easy to do on the teacher side as well. So I did open up our Pear Deck to student pace mode. So if you didn't notice that, you can now click through at your own pace at the end of the Pear Deck here. And so there are some different Pear Deck resources available. So the first few slides that are here are different templates. So these are just examples of pre-created templates that you can pull right from within that add-on on the side of your Google Slides. So there's a template library right there, and you can use any of these. So you click on that template library button, you click on the templates, and then it inserts it right into whatever slide you're using. So the graphing one is super fun for me in math. There's a whole bunch of SEL ones there as well, which are super fun to use as like a beginning of your lesson check-in or an end of your lesson. Like how do you feel about what you just experienced? So then you can be getting some input quickly and easily as well. And then after the templates, there's some pre-made lesson resources. And so those are super cool too. And those are after 22, if you're clicking through there. On 23, there's a weekly wonder, which is geared for all age levels. It kind of is a little elementary, but I definitely think high school students would enjoy that too. And it's definitely interesting content. There's Newsela Daily Decks too. I haven't used the Newsela Daily Decks, but they have some available that are based on the Newsela articles too. So you can use those. And then there is the Google Be Internet Awesome curriculum. So I use that with my 7th grade computer skills students for their for their digital citizenship curriculum. I definitely think that's geared towards younger kids, but in our school, the younger kids don't get it. So I still do it with the 7th graders. That 7th, 8th grade would probably be the max age levels for those. It's really more appropriate for, I would say, like 3rd or 4th grade, but younger could do some of the lessons as well. And those are some free curriculum resources that are available. And then on the very last slide, Pear Deck option has like 90 days of free premium that you can try. And see if the premium features are nice enough where you want to ask your district to purchase if they have not done so already. So now would be a great time to start trying out those 90 days so you can get your purchase order request in for the end of the year if you think the premium features are worth it for you. And that's what I have for us today. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Amanda, so much. What a great way to start our morning, I think. I think we got some people excited to give it a try. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am definitely tech integration here. So that is part of what I support our staff with. And I'm happy to answer any questions or things you may have as well.